Welcome to In the Know. We are back together talking about the Western Conference tiers. Join us and learn why we hate your team.
The New Orleans Pelicans select Zion Williamson.
And Holiday, the dribble penetration. So tough going to the goal.
You had that
Welcome.
line teed up.
I'm just borrowing it from Jeremy, man.
Hello.
He took over into the Eastern Conference tiers and made sure to let everyone know that he hates their teams. But I'm joined by Jeremy Wilson and Mason Ginsberg. What's up, fellas? Welcome back to another episode. How y'all doing?
I'm doing well. College team is doing well. Everybody tell you why we hate your team.
Doing great over here. We're enjoying our last few weeks of warm summer-ish weather, like 70s, 80s before winter's coming. So we're yeah. Then where I start to wish I was in NOLA with you guys. But you guys do okay with the storm and everything?
Yeah, we were lucky not to lose much power. Prayers of the people who did and had to endure that time. But we were fortunate, didn't lose power for no more than a minute.
Good.
Yeah,
Good
for
stuff.
sure. I definitely fortunate, definitely lucky. Um, I think the power flickered for 40 seconds maybe, and then the internet was out intermittently. I think the internet was the bigger one, but that's a first world problem for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Mason's got the Tulane hat on. They're about to kick off soon. He's sacrificing his pride and joy to join us. So we're going to reward him by talking about the lowest and the lowliest in the Western Conference, a team that everybody wants to talk about. Well, we'll leave this open because I don't know what your guys' tier rankings are. I know Jeremy's tier rankings. He did a wonderful article on this, but I don't know Mason's tier rankings. Um, Jeremy had Portland at the bottom by themselves, and I'm not sure I agree that they need to be at the bottom by themselves. But I will open it. Let me kick it. Let me kick it to Mason first, and then we can talk to Jeremy. We can talk about my position. Is there a single team in the West that you think is just going to be worse? And is it Portland? Do you think there's a group of teams? Where are you at the bottom tier? This is outside the play-in. Not even like these are the teams chasing lottery balls. This is that tier.
Yeah, I'm with J Dub on this one, man. Like I don't see any team being remotely as bad as Portland this year. Like the only one I've got like in the conversation is Utah, and like that, I think that I never know what Danny Ainge or what they're trying to do in a year. Like we all thought they were going to just bottom out last year to go or I I don't know. So I guess I just don't know what direction. I never know what direction they're going to go in a given year, and so you could end up seeing a team or two just start tanking early and end up close to that conversation. But I think the only team where I'm dead certain is going to just be terrible and try to be terrible from the start is Portland. And so I'm I guess that's kind of unfair because I do have guys like Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, so like they can't just try to be terrible, but like I don't see a team that's close to them as far as how bad they are.
So why have Portland by themselves?
Yeah.
Um, at least Laurie and Jordan Clarkson, and they have vets who are going to try. Like if we're rooting for Walker Kessler to be a Pelican, we must believe that he's a quality starter. I don't know. I don't even know if DeAndre Ayton and Jeremy Grant trying to win is good for Portland. Like them trying to win means that you're a bad team. They I don't. I believe school's going to be better. I think we've gone from overrating how
Do
great he
we
can
do we
be
lose
to now
Jeremy a little, or is it on my end?
um, underrating how good he was to end the season. They even though I like Shaden Sharp's athleticism, they're just small, and I just don't see how they're going to even try it defensively. And I don't trust anyone to create their own shot in the way that I do. At least trust Laurie to do that, and may single handedly win a few games for Utah. That's what the separator to me.
So look, I don't agree. I think there's a chance Portland's better than Utah. One, I think because Utah didn't pull the trigger on a guy like Brandon Ingram, they're going to actively play their worst players a good bit. I think they're going to play Keontae George a ton. I think they're going to play Isaiah Collier a ton. They're going to play Bryce Sensabaugh a ton. Taylor Hendricks. These guys are just. I don't think they're real NBA players, and I think well, not yet. Not yet. That's, not yet. I think that Portland in the beginning will have more NBA players in their rotation. So Aiton, I think is out of both teams. If you pull them together, he's probably the second best player. It's Lowry's a runaway, right? Aiton's probably the second best. I would say they have Jeremy Grant. I don't know if you mentioned Denny Avdia yet or not, but like Denny is a
Yeah.
real NBA player. He's gonna get them wins. Um, so I just like more of what's in Portland. I am a little bit more of a believer in their younger players too. I think Anthony Simons, little bit overrated in my book, but he's still, I think, probably the best guard on both teams. Um, and so I just think Portland is not going to be an easy out. And Klingon, I think is probably going to be ready to play day one, and it'll be you talk about Walker Kessler. I think there's going to be a similar impact off the bench. It's just going to be dependent on if they want to go crazy and play Aiton and Klingon together. I wouldn't do that, but it's a huge team. It'd be weird, you know. I think Portland and Utah are in the same tier. That is my position. Okay.
I understand. Well, Mason, do you have the over unders for those
Yeah.
teams?
What does Vegas say, or what does
What does
ESPN
Vegas
say?
say? This? Yeah,
You're on mute, brother.
mute. You're on mute.
Man, just like when I'm on work calls. So So I had this pulled up just to see where some of the differences could be between your tiers and what Vegas thinks. And so they do have Portland in a tier by itself, like to a staggering degree, almost to a too far of a degree, in my opinion. Like I think they're closer to Utah than what Vegas has them at, because 22.5 is the over under for Portland right now, and
Wow.
29.5 is the over under for Utah. So like I don't know where that's a huge gap, I think. And so I don't know if it's that far, but yeah, that's what it looks like right now.
Jeez. Okay. Hey, maybe I'm on an island by myself on this one, but we'll move up to the next tier, which is looking at the play-in from the outside is how I would describe it. I don't think they're favored to make the play-in. I think there's a world where if things break right, they can make the play-in. Jeremy had Utah and San Antonio in this tier. We've already talked about Utah a little bit. And you guys have given your reasoning why you think Utah is there. I've given my reason why they're not there. Let's talk about San Antonio. But before we do that, are there any other teams? I know Jeremy's already has his tier set. Mason, is there any other teams do you want to add to this group?
See, I want to take San Antonio out.
Okay.
I think there is another step function between the Jazz and the Spurs. And that's purely just credit to Wemby, like just being super. So Chris Paul a little bit, like Chris Paul he plays on winners, man. He doesn't win the championship ever, but he plays on winning teams. And so until I see otherwise from him. And look, he's not young anymore, obviously, so his career is coming to an end fairly soon, I would think. But I do think adding him as a vet who knows how to play winning basketball, and then Wemby just being as incredible as he was last year, like I think San Antonio is a good bit better than Utah. And so this is weird because like the bottom, I feel like because there are so many competitive teams in the West, the bad teams I think have to have like some more separation than they currently do, and there's going to be a bunch of teams jammed in the middle towards the top. But that's where I'm at.
That's fair. I'm with you in the assessment that I think San Antonio is better, but I have it because I think Utah's just down there with Portland, right? That's where my
Sure.
separation is built in.
Sure.
And the team that I would put in with the San Antonio group is actually Houston. And I think that's maybe a hot take, but I think if you look across the West, and I think the next group of teams that we're probably going to talk about is clearly better than Houston. I'm not a believer in their young talent coalescing this season. I think Jalen Green, it's a make or break year for him, man. It's a contract year. It's coming up. He's got to decide what kind of player he's going to be. I think the Rockets have to decide if he's not that player, if they're just going to turn the keys over to Reed Shepard, who may slide in and fit with Amen Thompson and Alperen Şengün more seamlessly. Şengün is also up for a payday. I'm a little bit worried about the egos on that team
Okay.
combusting because of the contract situations. And look, it is a contract year for Jabari as well in a way because he'll be extension eligible coming up. And you still have Dylan Brooks, who is, I think, talk about combustible. He's one of those dudes. And Steven Adams is going to have to like kind of hold the locker room together by himself. So they're an
Fred
interesting
VanVleet,
team.
Fred
Yeah.
VanVleet is
Yeah.
also technically in the contract year, and they just drafted his replacement. You could
And
think of it
Fred's
that
old,
way if you
dude.
believe in
Fred,
research. Yeah,
old small guard, a lot of miles. That is a recipe for them to follow. Look, if Houston hadn't won 10 straight games against a cupcake schedule, we probably not even seriously consider them moving them up in a tier. I think there would be a clear, not a play-in group. But that's how I feel. Jeremy had them in his next group, which we can talk about. Is he called it the hate to disappoint you group, and he included the Los Angeles Clippers and the Houston Rockets in that tier. And so before we talk about it, Jeremy, how do you define the hate to disappoint you group? Because we defined the last one as the outside of the play and looking in. How do you define this one?
well, the West is going to be extremely competitive, and those two teams in my opinion, aren't going to make the play in, even if I believe they can win 41 games. 46 was the cutoff for the 10 seed last year. So even if you believe that you're a good team, you may not be good enough. Now to go back to San Antonio, I don't think talent for talent, San Antonio is as bad as Utah or as good if you want to think about it. But the cutoff I had was they're going to look at it. If we're not, in the 8th seed and we're in the 11th seed, we may tail off because we get another chance at a shot at a great draft pick, as opposed
It's a good
to
point.
Dallas. Houston and LA, for one reason or another, they're not looking to get another high draft pick. They either have enough talent or
Yep.
another team has control of their picks. So they're going
That's
to
right.
try to win and try to make it when it comes to March. We're still going to try to push for that 10 seed as opposed to those other team who have an incentive to fall back.
I
See,
just
I man, I'm with you. I'm with you. But at the same time, I don't know if Chris Paul signs up for the Spurs if they're not going to commit to at least trying to win basketball games. And so, like, I think I've got the Spurs over both of those teams. I think I've got them over the Rockets and the Clippers. Like, I don't know. I'm super bullish on them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not there, but I think on the Chris Paul note, there is something super important to note. The way his contract is structured, he signed it in a way that apron teams are able to trade for him. So, there
Yes.
is not sorry, not trade for him. If he's bought out, they're able to sign him because there's apron restrictions where if you make over the MLE amount and you get bought out, then those teams can't sign those buyout players in the buyout market. Chris Paul's is just under that amount. So if he wants, if things go south in February or March, he could be like, "Pop,
Mhm.
buy me out. I'm gonna go wherever," and that is something that's on the table. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. So
but I'm I'm
not
I'm
even
with you,
bottom out.
Mason.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, well, I was gonna say, like, I'm with you. I can just see this being like a renaissance year for Chris Paul. Just like, oh, I'm back to starting again. I don't have to share the ball with another ball handler. It's just me running the show, and I'm used to inventing role men, right? Like Bismack Biyombo. I'm used to making guys like that look good. Now I got perhaps maybe the best one, the one that has the potential to be the best one in history, right? So that is a terrifying thought to me. Harrison Barnes still has good minutes left in him. Devin Vassell maybe when he doesn't have to take the primary offensive role or the secondary offensive role if he's the third or fourth option, maybe he looks a lot better. I don't know, man. The Spurs, I'm with you, Mason. I think they're in that Houston group. I don't quite think they're in the Clippers group because the way I feel about the Clippers is Ty Lue is kind of I think he's really good at just like raising the level of like the floor of teams and just kind of like finding new ways to win every single night. You know, if it's gonna come down to Kawhi's health, if his knees are cooked, they're cooked, right? That's it, the end period. But if he's, you know, if he can give him over 65 games, they're gonna win over 40, in my opinion. He's
Big F.
still that good of a player. I think James had a really good season last year. They have some interesting pieces now that they picked up this summer. A lot of the mutual swaps going on with Philadelphia, like the Philadelphia picking up a Clippers player and then the Clippers picking up a Philadelphia player. That was a very interesting thing. But I guess, Jeremy, where are you at with the Clippers?
That last thing you said about Kawhi, if his knees are cooked, they're cooked. I'm tired of trusting Kawhi's knees.
That's
And
fair.
that's where I'm at. It's nothing against the talent. I mean, you have two Hall of Fame talents at both your point guard and your wing, and Zubac is a. I don't call him underrated because if everyone calls him underrated, then you're properly rated. But they have a very good starting center, so they have the baseline for a good team. And then there's Norm Powell and the rest. And that's where it gets south real quick. And the margins in the Western Conference are so small that if you lose any depth piece, any starter for a certain an extended period of time, you're gonna lose games in this conference. And I'm just tired of trusting Kawhi Leonard's knee. And when we get to the next tier, there's probably a lot of team fans who aren't fans of the team we talk about who are going to say they're tired of trusting someone else too.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I'm a little more bullish on them. That's why I have them in the next tier, which is how I would define as play-in hopefuls slash playoff hopefuls. Right? Jeremy called it the postseason bound tier. The play-in tournament is the postseason. Jeremy said in
It
all
is. It
caps
is.
and
I'm going to
three
stand by that.
three exclamation points on that. So he's really standing by it. Look, let me before we move on to that, I want to do a quick Vegas check. Where are we at with the Spurs, the Rockets, and the Clippers?
So the Spurs are 36.5, so they're much better than Utah. So, but they're also solidly behind the next three. Or not solidly, but they are behind the Clippers. So Spurs are 36.5. The Clippers are 40.5. The Rockets are 43.5.
And
Wow.
that's on my differentiator. Like if Chris Paul does have a renaissance, but they're in 12th, it's easy to say, hey, how about we trade you or we buy you out and let you pursue your championship, and we fall back to the second part of our great offensive engine in
Yeah,
ways those other teams aren't. That's my only separator. Only
I,
if Chris Paul was
yeah,
25, they will be in the tier above. They'll be
yeah.
two tiers above.
I just think they've got enough NBA players, like real rotation. Like they added Harrison Barnes too, and so like I think they've got enough. And Keldon Johnson might. I mean, like I don't know if he's going to start. He might come off the bench for him, like to give him some pop off the bench. Like I think they've got enough to really be competitive. And I think the Rockets being 3 wins higher than the Clippers is interesting. I think Vegas thinks like you do, like
You said
prove it to me
43 and a half
Kawhi.
for the Rockets?
I would
Yeah,
take the under for that. I would take the under. Like I would
there are
really.
two
43 and a
other.
half. I mean, they won
Yeah,
41
this
last year.
is
Or was it 42?
this is
Was it
where it starts to
500?
get really.
It gets
This is where it
murky,
starts.
doesn't it?
I mean, yeah. I mean, here's where it starts to get murky. There are two other teams at 43 or 44 wins, and we're probably about to talk about them. So,
Yep. Let's go.
All right. So let's talk about them, right? So in this tier, Jeremy had it's a big tier. He had the Phoenix Suns, the Sacramento Kings, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Golden State Warriors. Um, I think actually where I'm at with this tier is I think this is two separate tiers. I think this is a I'm looking at the play in and I hope I can make the playoffs. And there's I'm probably going to make the playoffs. I hope I'm not in the play in and find myself trying to stay alive. I think there is a little bit of a stratification here. And here's how I would stratify it.
Yeah.
I would put the Pelicans, the Warriors, and the Lakers at that. Sorry, not the Lakers, the Kings at that bottom group, and then I would put the Suns, the Lakers, and the Grizzlies in that top group. That is where I would put it.
Is this
What are
outside
your
in, or
thoughts?
is this what the teams are thinking?
No, here's how I'm ranking them, right? I'm ranking
Okay.
them. I'm ranking the Pelicans, the Warriors, and the Kings as decidedly worse than those other three teams.
Okay, I might flip the Lakers and Pelicans, but I'm with you on the other four. Like, I had the same type of mentality. I think it was two tiers, and look, this could be homerism coming through, so I fully acknowledge that. But I just on sheer talent, but I know that there's roster construction challenges that we've talked about ad nauseum here. But yeah, otherwise, I'm with you on like the. I think the Warriors are definitely in that step function below. I think just like they're we talked about when we did the play in or the NBA Cup. We talked about the Warriors and our feelings on them. So
Mm-hmm.
but generally speaking, I'm with you that it's two different tiers.
I think I'm just a little bit lower on the Suns and the Grizzlies a a stoppage of, okay, those will be the top six, and then the other four teams will be be fighting for the play in. I understand Ja's back. I understand that when Ja played, they were, I think, 6-4 when he played games, but it also was two losses against us at the final seconds. Um, and it was a Atlanta win and I think an Indy win. But then they lost four straight, and then he's hurt his shoulder, like three or four, and then he hurt his shoulder. And the moment that if that defense isn't, if Edie isn't a Steven Adams clone and he's closer to the JV and they can't, protect Jaren Jackson Jr. defensively, it comes crumbling down quickly. They're going to be without GG for a few months. This is before even I wrote it, but even I'm high on GG, and I think they're doing a disservice. I heard, Grizzlies fans are saying that he's going to be 10th in the rotation, and I don't get that if even if he's hurt. For the Suns, it's a huge drop off of talent. Now it's a high talent, and the Olympic shoulders that they have two of the top four players on that team, and when they play well together and are a cohesive unit, KD and Booker can do a lot, but it drops off after Bill, and they just fired the coach, and these seems like dudes that if they don't buy in early, it's gonna be struggles to make the to get belief to their players, and everyone else has obvious flaws that we could speak about.
Yeah.
So
So I think
I'm with you. I think how. Sorry, go for it, Mason.
no, you go. I'll go after you.
Well, I was gonna say like the reason I stratified it into two tiers. I think the Suns, the Grizzlies, and the Lakers have identifiable strengths and identities that they can lean on in a way that the other three teams don't quite. So look, I think let's start at the top. The Suns, when they were their big three, quote unquote, was healthy, they were toasting teams, and they picked up Tyus Jones as well to kind of help organize
That's
defensive
what I was
sets.
gonna
And
say. It was Tyus Jones. That's a big pickup for them, I think.
yeah, Tyus Jones and Monty Morris as well, right? They picked up both of them. And so that's going to be pretty interesting to me. I think it's going to help them survive Bradley Beal missing time and all that other stuff.
Yep.
That's
Right.
that's a complete team, and I think their peak, right, with KD and Book going off, that's tough to match on any given night, right? On any given night, one of those guys can really
Hello.
beat you down.
Oh,
The Lakers, I feel similarly about because with Anthony Davis and LeBron, there's just a built-in system. Their experience, they kind of have a roster that's made to play to those guys' strengths, where everyone else is supposed to play hard and play defense and do all the dirty stuff, and those guys are going to take care of the rest. They're still a good team as long as LeBron doesn't show any sign of decline. I'm still not really betting against them in the moment. And then the last one with Memphis, anytime Ja has been healthy with Jaren Jackson in their core, they're getting Brandon Clark back as well, who I think is actually a sneaky candidate to start games. People have kind of penned in Zach Edey already, who may well start. Zach Edey might just be a monster off the bench. It might just be Brandon Clark, and they're just athletic at those big spots, and they're just a menace in protecting the paint. And then that Ja is going to be offense anytime he's on the court. So I think those three teams have identifiable strengths, whereas the bottom three things, the Kings, I can't. Obviously, like Fox, Sabonis, great players. They added DeRozan. I just don't know if there's a real identity that I'm comfortable with. The Pelicans, the same thing. A lot of talent. I don't know what your identity is right now. You got to show me. You really do got to show me your identity. Are you going to be a small team? Are you going to go trade for a big? What's Brandon going to do? There's just too much there for me to be like, no, they're going to overcome fit issues. And then the Warriors, we like you said, we talked about them in the last spot. It's the Steph Curry show. And outside of Steph, what do you got?
I think where I'm at, I'm taking my Homer glasses off right now, and I think it's the Grizzlies and the Suns are just a step fun. I'm just lower on the Lakers because of, again, like it. I shouldn't be doubting LeBron, and I don't mean to, but like it is. I just don't see the supporting cast, like they keep not doing enough for me to like have them on the same tier as the Grizzlies and the Suns. Like those are both like solid, complete teams, much more complete teams than the Lakers. And so I think I'm going to put the Pelicans back down in that tier with the Kings, with the Lakers. And honestly, I don't want to boil the ocean with tiers here, but I feel like the Warriors are below all those teams to me. Like they're just not. I don't know. I don't have them quite.
You
at the
drop them down to
level
the
of
Clippers
Kings.
tier.
You can't put them in a tier. Like the only tier by itself is the very bottom. Like so, I don't know. I'm thinking about. I'm closer. Probably. Yeah. Let's just do that. Screw it. Let's just do it. I'll put it down there, and then
this is why I put all 6 of them together, because you try to find differentiators, and I completely understand why you would say Phoenix and Memphis have a slight, you put them slightly above the rest, but they all have flaws. And in a more offensive team league, Memphis just doesn't generate enough offense for me to believe that they're still a 50-win team without blinking twice. They were a 50-win team when the Pelicans made the play-in with 36 wins. That's not the West anymore. You know what I'm saying? The conference is tougher for me to just say they're a walking wins machine the way I put the next 2 teams and the teams above them in that tier. For me to say that, like, all these guys can win 45 to 49 games. And that's why I put them all together, because I can see them all winning those amount of games.
I get it. I'm with you.
So one thing we didn't mention about the Suns was Budenholzer, and I think Budenholzer is going to be a big upgrade over Vogel, who they had previously, and I think that's another reason where I just have them a cut above the rest there. But we can move on.
Fair.
We got 4 teams left. Jeremy split them up into 2 separate tiers. I kind of want to put you guys on the spot and force you to just rank them outright. And so the 4 teams we have left are the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Denver Nuggets, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Oklahoma City Thunder. These are the conference finalists. Those are the 4 teams that made the conference finals. And I am are these the conference finalists?
The conference semifinalists.
Yeah.
And they faced each other in my tier system. They faced each other in the conference semifinals. Funny enough,
they did. They made the conference semis. So at the top, let's start at the top and just, I guess, like, work our way down. It seems to be a popular pick, not amongst just us here. I've heard it in different shows and podcasts, but a lot of people have OKC at the top of the West by themselves. This is not counting what they did in the postseason, but they really didn't lose anybody of consequence. Hayward retired, Giddy was traded, and they added Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso, who shore up two of their big weaknesses, big time. The team that won the West, although not by not it's not like they ran away with the West. They came down to the last game of the season and some tiebreakers, but this is a team that won the West in the regular season. Um, do you guys agree that they are at the top?
No, I'm going to
Yeah.
say it. I do not think they're the best team in the West. I believe the Mavericks are the best team in the West. They are so deep. They have the best player in the West. I'm going to give Luka the nod over Jokic. They have the best complementary guard. They have um, Kai doing what he does best. Is I'm a point guard, not a pass guard, and I'm going to get buckets. I I think people are underrating the Clay signing. He doesn't have to be Clay putting up 25 points a night, but if he's what Pedro was for us in the 2007 2008 season, he's going to pay huge dividends. I think Gafford is going to be a superstar level center when in his role. Not Gafford, not
Oh my
Gafford,
God,
not Gafford, not
no.
Gafford. Lively, not Gafford.
Okay. All
Lively.
right. Thank God. Oh
Sorry,
man.
sorry. My bad. I've been with Adam too long. I'm sorry. What's up, Adam? But no, I think Lively is a superstar center for his role in the making, and I just love their team. I love their toughness. I love Najee going there. Um, I love him if I didn't have to root against the Mavs, but I just love that team so much. I think they stole Josh Green, not Josh Green. They stole the guy from the Knicks, who he just has to play his 3-and-D
Quentin
style.
Grimes.
Quentin Grimes, there you go.
Yeah.
They stole him. I think they still have Exum. I
Yep.
love
They
their
do.
team. I love how they can play off each other in ways that even OKC can, because I think they just have the better player at the end of the day.
Hey, I love it.
I'm not telling you that OKC is going to go to the NBA Finals, but I am telling you I think they're the best regular season team in the West, and I I I don't know. I think I think they've got superstar talent. They've got the depth. Like that's where I'm at.
I think
Um,
they have two
I
superstars, not three. That's the difference. I think they have two and not three. And a lot of people think they have three
but
superstars.
I mean, I was like, well, the Mavs definitely don't.
No,
So,
no, no.
um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
I
this
don't even
Chet
know.
versus Lively thing is going to be an interesting talking point
Yeah,
moving forward.
yeah, maybe. What you saying? You think it's close between the two, and who's better?
Well, I think Chet's going to be the better player. He's just more offensively well rounded. But I think there's worlds where Lively has the same impact on a team just because of how good of a role he's in, how good of a situation he's in, and how good he is at that role. So like, you've had players who don't have, like look at Rudy Gobert. I'm not trying to say Lively's going to have the career that Rudy Gobert has. Rudy's a Hall of Famer, but Rudy doesn't have an expansive role, but he's incredible at what he does. So I just think there's potential to where when you look at their impact metrics, they end up being similar. Though I think Chet's going to be incredible. Just now, year two Chet, if that shot is consistent in any capacity, he's going to be a problem. I have OKC at the top, but I do think Jeremy made the right move of having those two in the same tier by themselves, which is gonna win their division. Confident they're gonna win their division tier. That was the smart move. So that leaves us the other two teams, Denver Nuggets and Minnesota Timberwolves. Where are you guys at with those?
I I feel like I'm I'm putting Minnesota over Dallas, so I'm not with you guys on Denver on Dallas being number two. I think I'm putting them over Dallas. I I don't believe in any like I feel like Jokic is going to continue to have to do too much for Denver. So like Denver, I'm trying to figure out who I have 3 and 4 versus Dallas and Denver. I think I have Dallas a little bit over Denver. I just have such a hard time not believing in Jokic. He can create so many wins by himself. But I and I do think after what happened last season, they're going to care about seeding a little more potentially. And so I don't know, but I do have Minnesota too. I know that much over Dallas and Denver.
They need a whole lot out of Mike Conley that I don't think Mike has anymore. That's what scares me about Minnesota. And I'm just not a Rob Dillingham or just point guard, rookie point guard believer to say that, they're gonna win games, but I couldn't say they're gonna win the division because Oklahoma City is in their division.
Yeah, I mean, I
And,
hear you.
and even
Like,
if I think they're gonna be a wins generator, same with Denver, by the way, they're gonna be a wins
so,
generator. But I don't know if they're gonna be as good as OKC, and Dallas is in a easier division, and I think they have better talent.
Yeah, I'm. Look, here's the way I would do it. I would have Denver as the four because I am not confident in. I'm not confident in the fact that they lost KCP. I don't like their bench. I don't think they have much behind Jokic. We talked about it in our in-season cup stuff. Jokic is gonna have to have an incredible year, which I'm sure he will, but so will Jamal and Michael Porter Jr. I think there's less questions about the Timberwolves, but they lost Kyle Anderson. Still, their backup point guard situation is questionable at best. I don't think they have much shooting per se, and then they still have to kind of figure out the balance between Cat, Leonard Miller, and Gobert, and they're getting, the price of that team has nothing to do with how well they're going to play, but I. Jaden McDaniels didn't progress offensively as I think they hoped he would after he got that big contract. Nikhil's going to have to be more consistent. So it's just like a number of things. If Ant is a 33% shooter from deep instead of 35.7, which he was last year, that's a meaningful difference. So there's just enough things to where I'm like, all right, I don't think you're good as Dallas. I don't think you're good as OKC. You're still going to be an incredible defensive team because that's what a Rudy Gobert team is. And there's going to be enough offense with Ant and Cat and their other dudes to like they're going to win games. And it's going to be annoying to play against them with their size, but I am not a believer in their conference finals run. They beat Denver in 7. Um, that was about as bad as Murray could have looked across a season or across a series. So that one, they're a really good team. If things break right, they can end up back there, but that's not a sure shot, in my opinion, that they're going to repeat a run to the conference finals.
Let me ask you a question. I ask both of y'all a question. Do you think Phoenix has a chance to be as good as either your fourth choice between Minnesota and Denver?
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. I think
yes,
there's a world where Phoenix wins like 55, and
yeah,
cruises to a home court advantage.
yep.
Okay, I'd say I was talking down about Memphis per se, but I do see the avenue where Phoenix puts it all together and they just have the best off one of the top three offenses in the NBA and do enough on defense and they get 55 wins. So I would agree with y'all in that aspect.
Okay, Mason, let's get a Vegas check from top to bottom. Where are we at with the West?
Yeah. Yeah. One last I'm looking one last thing. Like I do think strength of schedule is like something that's playing in my mind here, and like the Southwest is a freaking bloodbath, and like all five teams are good. Like not great, but all five teams are good, and so like Dallas is going to have a little bit of a ringer there to go through, which it's not fair to penalize Dallas for that and not think about the impact there for the other teams like New Orleans, for example. But it is something that's on my mind as far as Dallas, and like I haven't looked in detail on like who Minnesota plays 3 times versus 4, so maybe this is a moot point, but I do think that there is something to that element as well. But as far as over, so I'm gonna scroll down here and look at. So because we didn't talk about a bunch of teams. So starting from the bottom at the teams we didn't talk about. So the Lakers are at 43.5. The Warriors are at 44.5, which I think Warriors being ahead of the Lakers here is lunacy. But anyway, um, Pelicans are 46.5. Kings are 46.5. Grizzlies are 47.5. Suns are 47.5. And then it jumps up. And so then, so actually not that much. The Mavs are 49.5. The Nuggets are 51.5. The Timberwolves are 52.5, and then the Thunder are 4 games above them at 56.5. So Vegas has got Oklahoma City at very much solidly won. Yeah.
Are we overlooking Russell Westbrook and Dario Saric?
No.
As negatives or positives?
Sure. Either way.
I froze. Oh no. I don't know if my answer made it through.
I don't know. But I think I do wonder if strength of schedule is playing a part here in the Dallas over under too, because being two below Denver and 3 below Minnesota. I don't know. I think that's interesting because look, the Mavs are, I think, very hard to assess based on last season in a vacuum, because they were play-in potential midpoint of the season ish, if I'm remembering correctly, and then they went on a nice run. And
they got pros
I mean, for sustainable reasons, right? So all the reasons they went on that run last year is logical to think that that can continue forward. So that's kind of where I think it's interesting that that they are a couple games below Minnesota, or for the time Denver, and 3 below Minnesota.
Not trying to turn this to a bet on the no, but if I were to take a few bets, I would take the Dallas over, the Rockets under, and the Kings under, and I would not touch the Pelicans over under with a 20-foot pole, because I don't know about this team. They're talented.
People
but
shouldn't be betting on any of these Western teams, man. These Western teams just this conference sucks. Don't bet on them. Just go to the East. You know, like the Cavs are going to clean up against the Herald. Yeah, just
the Brooklyn under.
Just go to East.
The Brooklyn under.
Oh God.
The fun things for me would be and I don't know if they even offer stuff like this, but I would love to bet who has more wins between two teams. And I'm thinking it would be so fun to bet on the Spurs having more wins than the Warriors. Chris Paul going to the Spurs and having more wins with the Spurs than the Golden State Warriors. I think that would be the storyline there is incredible. And I don't think it's crazy. I just don't.
That would be funny.
Yeah.
That would be funny. Oh man.
All right. The Lakers have signed 7-foot center Christian Coloco. Does that move you guys up? Does that put him in a different tier for you guys?
Tier 1.
No.
Anything you got to do so AD doesn't play center. I respect it, man. 12 years running, that is consistency.
Oh man,
consistency. Well, this has been a good pod. Right? Anybody. Just we're gonna have Miritich out there fighting for his life, playing center. But I appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining. We will kick back in maybe next week, maybe the week after. Stay tuned. But hey, we're right there for media dates, right around the corner. Appreciate everybody. Thanks for listening.